Hi there, today I've got this PowerBook 540C. It has seen better days for sure. The latch is broken, the screen is suffering from Vinegar Syndrome, and it's full of corrosion. Will it even turn on, and is it savable? Let's find out today. Welcome to the basement. So you're not seeing double. This one here, this is a PowerBook 540C, which I've owned for a while, and it's actually one of my favorite in the whole Mac series of laptops. The reason why I love these so much is because they did so many things first. First to have stereo speakers, first to have the touchpad, that was a big deal. First to have built-in Ethernet. Just all the things that we take for granted today in a laptop, this was doing it first, way back in 1994. So admittedly, the 540C was actually a stopgap computer from Apple because they'd been working on this PowerPC chip. They hadn't really got it ready for laptops just yet, and they had to release something. So they released the 540C with a Motorola 68040 running at 33 megahertz. So pretty fast for the Motorola processor, but definitely outclassed by the upcoming PowerPC processor. Now, what I do love about this design as well, it has the dual battery system, which means you could be running off one battery, charging the other, swap them over and keep going. Or if you need extra power for a long flight or something like that, you've got more battery power. And of course, one of these bays doubles as an expansion bay for something like a PCM CIA adapter. So just an all-round really handy computer. So I'm not sure exactly of the specs of this one here. I know they came with up to a 500 megabyte SCSI hard drive, up to a maximum of about 36 megabytes of RAM, I think. So not sure what's in this one. I do know though, from having a look in the back flap, that it came with the modem. So that's a little bonus. Not that I'm going to use it, but it's always nice to get little extras. Now, what's bad about this one here is obviously the screen is fairly damaged. So that's Vinegar Syndrome. I'll talk about that a bit later. It's missing its latch here that latches the screen down, so that should latch shut, but it's obviously not. One good thing is that it's still got that flap on the back. Often you lose that, so that's good that that's still there. And I've just put some tape over these feet because they're getting a bit sticky. The rubber's degrading on those. Now, the one annoying thing about this particular series of laptops is it's the only one in all of Apple's PowerBook lineup that takes a unique power adapter. So you have to have one just for the 500 series. Luckily, I have one which came with this machine, so I'm going to use that to power this machine. We'll plug it in, see what happens, see if it turns on. Fingers crossed it does, and we can carry on with the repair. Let's find out. So that's the weird 4-pin power connector for this series of laptops. But anyway, we'll deal with that. First of all, let me tell you about today's sponsor, PCBWay. So PCBWay is your one-stop shop to get everything you need for your next project. They can do the case, they can do the PCB, they can provide the components, they can assemble it, they can do the prototyping, they can do it all, or you can do as much as you want as well. If you want to know which way to go, it is PCBWay, kind sponsor of today's video. Okay, let's just have a quick look around this particular machine, see what makes it tick. We've got over here our power socket for that 4-pin power connector, and like I said before, we've got this flap. It's nice to have that still on there. A lot of times these get broken off, especially on these machines that look like they've had a pretty hard life. So that's a bonus. Here we've got the serial port, so that's for printers or modems, I suppose, or networking. Here we've got audio in, here we've got audio out, here we've got an ADB connector for a mouse or a keyboard, here we've got the Ethernet, so that uses a funny port, I forget the name of that, but you can get adapters that just convert that to a standard Ethernet port. Here we've got what looks like a HDMI port, but it's not. It's the video out, and it's designed to take one of these, a Macintosh PowerBook video cable. So here we've got one still in its wrapper, and we plug that end into the PowerBook, and this end would just go into the Apple monitor of the day. So we might see if that works later on. Finally, over here we've got the SCSI port, so we'll be able to plug in a blue SCSI into that and boot off it if there's nothing happening on the built-in hard drive. And finally, the modem over here. On the side of the machine, we've got a floppy drive, and we've got one of the battery bays. Now, you can't quite see in there, but it's full of corrosion. So you can see all that white stuff there. That's from leaky batteries. So I don't hold out much hope for this thing actually turning on. It's been covered in corrosion for quite a while. Right, this side doesn't have anything, but it does have the battery bay. Underneath, we've got these nifty little feet that pop up, and that just changes the angle of your computer. And of course, opening it up, we've got the computer itself, keyboard, touchpad, single mouse button, because of course it is a Mac from the 90s, and we didn't need two mouse buttons back then. We just held down control and clicked. The most obvious issue is of course the Vinegar Syndrome screen. So what happens is an LCD has two polarizing layers on the top and the back, and there's some sort of glue layer between those polarizing layers and the LCD panel itself, and that glue can react with something. No one's actually quite sure, but it's certainly reacting with something, and you end up with this terrible effect here. It's called Vinegar Syndrome because it stinks like vinegar. So whatever chemical reaction's going on, it's releasing sort of a vinegar smell. And you get sort of, there is a bit of a sticky residue with it as well. Anyway, I'm hopefully going to be able to fix that. I've never done one of these before, but we're going to give it a go on this machine, provided that it powers on. If it doesn't power on, it's got no signs of life, then this is just going to be a parts machine. So let's find out. And we should just hit the power button. All right, we get a chime. That is a good sign, but we're getting a funny noise from the hard drive. So first things first, the screen lit up, so that's a good sign. The chime happened, so that's a good sign. Let's pull the keyboard off, have a look underneath, and get to the hard drive, see if that needs any kind of fixing. And lift it up and away. Come on, there he goes. Right, and we can see the state of the corrosion in there. Look how crusty it is in here. That's all corrosion. Yeah, over here as well, look at this. Oh my goodness, this is going to need completely stripping and cleaning. Anyway, let's see if it'll fire up first. So we tried turning it on before. The hard drive here was, I think it was the hard drive making that noise. So let's just turn it on and see what happens. Now, I suspect what might be happening is that it's stuck. So I'm just going to give it a tap and see if that wakes it up. Look at that. Away she goes. Percussive maintenance. I love it. Oh, and straight away, we are booting in. I don't know if you can see that. We're booting into Mac OS. Let me just adjust that. So it's finished booting, and it looks like a typical sort of a 90s desktop here. We've got Netscape Navigator. We've got Stuffit Expander. Browse the internet, because it was all very new and exciting. I'm surprised it works at all, given the amount of corrosion that's in here. It's actually a bit of a hero, I think, that it's running. Okay, so the touchpad's a bit jumpy. I've managed to open the About This computer, and it's running Mac OS 8.1, and it has got 20 megabytes of RAM. So pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm happy that it's working. I think it has earned the right to be repaired. Look, there's our RAM expansion and the processor, and on the back of this is a great big heatsink. Got him. All right, one floppy drive out of the machine. Right, I managed to pull the hard drive out the side of the computer by prying it apart, because obviously that bracket's not coming out yet until we can get in there and fix it. And what I might do with this hard drive potentially is pull it apart and oil it up. Maybe if it's getting stuck like that, it might just be gummed up inside. So look at that corrosion. Everything, this is actually some sort of magnesium alloy, I think, in here, and it has just reacted badly with the battery acid leakage, or maybe it's from the vinegar screen. I don't know, but it is bad. We can see in here as well that looks like perhaps battery juice in here. And I'll get this middle frame off, and we'll get that, I don't know, sandblast. No, I'll give it a good scrub in the sink, get all that corrosion off, and then it's not too bad down here, but yeah, it definitely needs a lot of corrosion cleaned up. Okay, so everything's apart. We've got the bottom case, we've got the magnesium frame with all its lovely corrosion on there. We've got the top case, so that'll get a scrub as well. I've got the screen assembly, but I'll leave that together for now. I've got bits everywhere and I don't want to get too confused. It doesn't take much to get me confused. And we've got this here, the motherboard, so that needs a clean. I've pulled the daughter boards out. It had a processor, it had the RAM, and it had, I think, a modem in the back here as well. Righto, so time for cleaning, and then we'll come back, put this back together, and start working on the screen, I reckon. Okay, I've given everything a clean. There is one little piece of damage on here, and that is this battery pin. So there should be 4 pins here, and they're springy, and they take the battery connectors, and one of them was just corroded through and just snapped off. I'm not going to worry about it at this stage because I'm not going to run this on batteries anyway. The batteries are long dead. So I'm just going to run this with connected power. So yeah, we've actually got off pretty lightly, I think, with this board, because sometimes I've taken these boards apart and there's just surface mount capacitors falling off everywhere. This one seems to be okay. I mean, I guess fingers crossed, because we haven't put it back together yet. But if that's the only bit of damage from all of that corrosion, I'm pretty happy. So this is the bottom case from the 540, and I've noticed there's a few broken standoffs. So we've got a broken one here, a broken one here. We've got this one completely missing, and this little one here for the, I guess, for the touchpad, that's broken as well. Now I do happen to have a couple of 520s, and this one has got some issues, obviously. Again, it's got the Vinegar Syndrome, and it's actually got, so I've turned it on and the LCD's got lines on it, so that indicates it's got a broken LCD anyway. But it's got a pretty nice bottom case. It is missing the bum flap, but I've got the one on the other case, so I might pull this apart, and if this has less broken standoffs on it, I'm going to substitute this one into the 540. Right, I've disassembled the 520. It went a lot quicker because, well, it's my second time at it now. And this is the 540 bottom case with all the broken standoffs, and this is the 520 bottom case, which looks a lot better. So that one's fine, that one's fine, this one here is intact. The only problem is this one is broken on this as well, but the piece is still there, so I'm going to be able to have a go at plastic welding that back on, and that should fix that. So I'm definitely going to use this bottom case. It's got no corrosion on the copper coating either. It still needs a bit of a clean. There's more powdery stuff in here, but I'll get that done and start putting it back together. Now, just in case you're wondering, using the case of the 520 is going to give me the wrong label. Apple will actually use the same label across all of their models, so they could just reuse the same bottom cases for both models. So this is the 540 case, this is the 520 case, and they all say exactly the same stuff on them. The only differentiator between the two models is found on the screen itself. There's a 540C or a 520C, and that actually comes out and they just put the correct one in. That's the only way to tell between the two models. I have decided to pinch the trackpad off the 520 as well. The top case is actually broken here, so the top case is not much good, but the trackpad might be better than the other one. I did notice that on the 540 that mouse pointer was jumping all over the place, so just in case there's an issue with it, let's put this one in. It can't hurt to try. Okay, that feels good. Hopefully that works better than the other one. Aha, another broken corner. Right, let me pull that off again. Okay, so I didn't spot that before. The standoff, the metal insert in that standoff is missing. I'm wondering if I can get that out and put it in here. yeah, look at that, got it out. Yeah, so let's put it in the other case. Let me just use the soldering iron to melt it in. Great. Okay, this is a bit of a bummer. The screw wasn't tightening on the corner here, and I should have stopped turning, but it just snapped right in half. So I'm going to try and pull that. There's a bit of corrosion on that standoff anyway. I'm going to try and pull that metal insert out and do the same trick. We'll put another one in for this corner. And out she comes. Right, got that one stuck on the end of the soldering iron. Let's put it in here. That's enough. And then push this plastic back over. Okay, hopefully I haven't made that worse. So what I want to do now is turn it on. I still haven't disassembled and tried to repair the screen yet, but we have pulled all of this apart and given everything a clean. So I just want to check that I haven't just broken something and make sure it's still working before I carry on attempting to fix the screen. And fingers crossed, it should just fire into life, and that hard drive hopefully spins up first go as well. Okay, power's connected. Yes, we get a chime, hard drive spinning straight up. That's good to know. And yes, booting into macOS. So I'm just going to let it boot, and then I'm going to check that the mouse is working better. Okay, it's booted to the desktop, and let's try the mouse. Yes, that works great. That's not jumping around like it was before. So that means we haven't broken it further. We've cleaned everything, we've restored the corrosion, and next step is going to be to try to fix this display. Let's move on to that. First of all, to pull it apart, we'll remove this bezel, and that's these two screws here. Okay, I wonder if there's screws under these bumpers because it feels quite attached at the top. And yes, there are. Oh well, that's good to find it now. Now, while I've got it apart as well, the latch here for keeping the lid down is broken, so I'm going to pinch the one off the other machine and swap that over. So here's the display. We want to get it right back down to the LCD panel so that we can take this layer off, and you can see all the rusty corrosion in here, and I think that's from polarizers delaminating. Must give off quite a nasty acid, which is causing quite a bit of corrosion here, but we'll get that tidied up. And that is the LCD out of the case. The rest of this case looks okay. The hinges are still attached, and there's no signs that I can see of any cracking in those plastic hinge mounts, so that's a really good sign. I'm not so sure about this series, but the 100 series, they all break here. So thankfully these are okay. I'm not going to bother with them too much. Maybe they could do with a bit of a tighten. But now comes the really scary bit where we just have to try and peel this layer off the glass LCD without damaging the glass, but getting all the polarizer and glue off, which may mean I need to use like a metal blade or a scraper. I'm going to try and use plastic where I can, just because that's going to minimize damage to the glass, but otherwise we'll see how we go. Get under the corner when you see it start to lift up. So I dare say this is going to be a fairly slow and laborious process. So where I've pulled the polarizer off from here, it's I thought it was all gone, but this must be the glue layer, which is now coming off. I peeled from the other corner, so I'm trying to get all that off in one piece because that will save me a lot of time, be a much better result. So I'll just carefully go and take my time. Okay, it looks like we're done. I'll clean it up. To be honest, I thought it was going to be a lot more violent than that. It's going to have to get on it with scraping tools. But that's a relief. Okay, I've just booted the machine. The backlight's come on. As you can see, it's sort of lit up here. And you can't see anything on the screen, which is to be expected because there's no polarizing layer. The way LCDs work is the light has to shine through a polarizing screen. Look at that, it's just like magic. And if we flip it up here, the polarizer runs the wrong way, so everything's reversed, which is quite cool. But we won't stick it on that way, we'll stick it on the correct way, which is that way around. So I'll cut this to size, stick it on and get this put back together. Okay, I think that's as clean as it's going to get. Now comes the really tricky part. Well, it's a bit of a fail. I've got it on there, but I've got all blotches and spots in there, and I think the glue is too strong on the polarizing layer, and it doesn't sort of allow it to sit down flat as you're putting it on there. Kind of as soon as it grabs, and then you end up with these spots that you can't get rid of. So I'm going to maybe try and get it off, and I've got one more piece, so I might do some test runs and just work out the best way to get it on here. Okay, after many attempts, I have managed to get it, to get it on there. It was a journey. Now, there's no way I have the skills, ability, or workspace to be able to stick this polarizer down to the screen. I just cannot do it. I've tried so many different test pieces and different methods, and I cannot stick it down without it looking terrible. So what I have done is I have cut the piece the right size, and then I took 2 millimeters off each side of the backing, and so it's stuck on a very small strip here, and it's stuck on a very small strip here, and the rest of it is not stuck down at all, but you can't really tell. It's still got the backing sheet on, which I just cleaned the best I could, and it certainly looks better than the efforts I made trying to stick it down. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. Next time I order this polarizer, I might get the non-sticky one and just do this from the start, because I don't know if there's some sort of secret technique, but I can't work it out. I just really struggled with that. Anyway, it's looking good. I'm going to put it back together, replace that catch, and I reckon we're done. Right, everything is back together and it is looking fantastic, if I do say so myself. So the screen is completely 100% repaired and looks great. I have put new side covers on here where the batteries go. I've put the floppy drive from the other machine because it's got its flat there, so that's back. What else? We've got our latch on here, that's been fixed as well, so now click, it closes. So it is essentially back to how it should have always been. So that's a really good result. What we're going to do now is plug it in, and we're just going to double check everything's working fine. I've actually I've set up my server and it talks Apple Talk, so we're going to connect to it with this and play some games and just check that screen's all working, and that there's no other nasties. But otherwise I think it's looking pretty good. Let's connect it now and see what she can do. Okay, let's fire it on and see how it looks. Great, and we can finally see the desktop. It's been a long time since I think anyone's been able to see this desktop, and the mouse is working fantastic, so that's not jumping around anymore. Now, because this machine has built-in Ethernet, I have connected to my server, and we can just Apple Talk into it, and we can get all the games I've got in there. There it is, RetroNet. And let's just connect. Okay. Okay, let's have a look at the games. Right, and there it goes. It takes a while to load because it's actually streaming it over the network. And Apple Talk is notoriously slow, but it's good enough for what we want to do. You can see the little network signal up there saying, yep, we're loading it. All right, and away we go. Well, I'm calling this one a win. Everything that was broken about this 540C has been fixed, and it's better than ever. So I'm just going to keep playing a few games on that awesome screen. You've been in the basement. Have a great day.